There's nothing greater than watching a good football game. But when one team does way better than the other, that is a spectacle all on its own. Let's look back at the top 10 greatest blowouts in NFL history. Or at least the top 10 we have footage of. Washington was 0-7 coming in. This was their 16th straight loss in a row going back to the previous season. This was in the middle of a 24-game winless streak, one of the longest in NFL history. The Giants scored 2 safeties in the first half. That's 1/3 of all safeties scored that season to that point. Washington QB Norm Snead, a man who would go on to make 4 Pro Bowls, is playing in his rookie season. He threw 7 of 20 for 83 with 2 interceptions and a rating of 9.0. Keep in mind, if you spiked the ball in every play, your QB rating would be 39.6. Washington pulled out Snead and put in George Izzo. Izzo would go 2 of 6 for 16 with 2 interceptions and a rating of 2.8. The Giants' passing performance wasn't that great either. Their 2 QBs combined for 17 of 37 for 236, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a rating of 63.4. The Giants had the best defense and second best offense. Washington had the worst offense and second worst defense. Washington in 1961 were last in all these categories. In the 1970s, the Jets did not make the playoffs a single time, similar to their drought that exists today. In this game, the Patriots gained a total of 597 yards. That ranks number 46 of all time. And the Jets were sacked 9 times for 86 yards. That ranks number 40 of all time. Patriots QB Steve Rogan went 13 of 18 for 315 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, and an almost perfect rating of 153.9. It's not often you see the Packers getting mauled by the Bears. The first time they played each other that season, the game went into overtime. The Packers won on the infamous Chester Markle play. With the game tied 6-6, Chester Markle, who had snorted coke at halftime, went out to attempt a game-winning field goal. The kick was blocked, but it bounced right into the hands of Markle, who went down to score a touchdown, winning the game for the Packers. In this game, on the other hand, the Bears starting QB, Vince Evans, had a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. He went 18 of 22 for 316 with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. This was a revenge game. What was the revenge for? No one really knows. What I do know is the Oilers head coach was really hated by most of the league, including Bengals head coach Sam Weish, and so Sam Weish wanted to beat the Oilers as badly as possible. The Oilers were playing in the coldest temperature in team history. It was just 9 degrees at kickoff. They acted as if they didn't want to be there from the beginning, when the center botched the opening snap and the Bengals recovered. Already leading by 45-0 in the third quarter, Weish had his Bengals swift kick. Cincinnati recovered and scored to make it 52-0. In the fourth quarter, the Bengals allowed their punter to kick an extra point for some reason. He missed. Their kicker wasn't injured, as he would kick a field goal with 21 seconds left to put the Bengals up 61-7. As the final seconds ticked away, Weish stepped to midfield and waved bye-bye, as the humiliated Oilers coach ran towards shelter. Warren Moon is a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he played pretty poorly in this game. He threw 9 of 20 for 96 with 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a rating of 20. Boomer Esiason, the Bengals quarterback, played really well. He went 20 of 27 for 326 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a rating of 153.7. Even Boomer's backup played well. Eric Wilhelm went 7 of 8 for 76 with 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and a rating of 145.8. Falcons QB for this game was named Dick Shiner. Yes, that's his real name. Dick Shiner threw 13 of 15 for 227 with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions for a perfect QB rating of 158.3. Following a perfect QB rating this game, in Week 2, Shiner would go 2 of 9 for 17 with 0 touchdowns and 1 interception for a rating of 0.0. Saints QB Archie Manning threw 5 of 13 for 62 with 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions for a QB rating of 40.1. Archie Manning was taken out of the game and Bob Davis was put in. He threw 3 of 11 for -5 with 0 touchdowns and 1 interception for a rating of 1.7. At this point in history, neither team had ever made the playoffs. This was in the middle of a 20-season playoff drought by the Saints. After a scoreless first quarter, the Falcons would go on to break or tie 35 team records. In 1999, the Jaguars went 15-0 against opponents not named to the Titans and 0-3 against opponents named the Titans. This was a divisional playoff game in Dan Marino's last professional game. In his last professional game, Dan Marino went 11 of 25 for 95 with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions for a rating of 34.6 and had 2 fumbles. In the first 25 minutes of the game, Dan Marino went 2 of 13 for 5 while being intercepted once and losing 2 fumbles, 1 for a touchdown. This is when Brackens had a "the ball is still alive" moment. All but one Dolphins drive went less than 13 yards. A whole 2/5 of their drives did not gain any yards at all, and 1/4 went backwards. 5 of their drives ended with fumbles and 2 ended with interceptions. The 1999 Jaguars also had a Super Bowl song.
Can't stop the way the game goes. Super Bowl bound, that's the show. It's going.
Boy, did that not age well. The best part of the game has to be when the sprinklers came on during the game.
The sprinklers have come on the football field. Perfect! This is unbelievable. The automatic sprinkler system has come on the goal line. Absolutely perfect.
This was a rematch of Super Bowl 44 1 year later. This was a Sunday night football game because they expected both teams to be good. Unfortunately, both teams weren't good, as Peyton Manning was inactive the whole season with a neck injury. The Colts were in the middle of a 14-game losing streak. They started the 2011 season 0-13. Colts starting QB was Curtis Painter, a man whose career stats look like this. Dan Orlovsky played part of this game. Yes, that Dan Orlovsky. Sean Payton, the Saints head coach, had been injured from a sideline tackle the previous week and was sitting up in the booth. So Saints offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael Jr. called plays for the first time. Under Carmichael's control, Drew Brees went an excellent 31 of 35 for 325 with 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions for a rating of 144.9. He threw more touchdowns than incompletions. Drew Brees ended the season with 5,476 passing yards, an NFL record. The 2012 Seahawks, with their Legion of Boom defense, allowed the fewest points of all teams that season. Behind rookie quarterback Russell Wilson, their offense was also pretty good. The Seahawks would come back the next week and score 50 points against the Bills. They then scored 42 points against the 49ers in the next game. This is a total of 150 points over 3 games, which, if that's not a record, is darn close. The Cardinals had the second worst offense that season. They started 4-0 and finished 5-11. Cardinals starting QB John Skelton went 11 of 22 for 74 with 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions for a rating of 18.2. Tom Brady threw 5 touchdown passes in the second quarter alone, an NFL record. He also passed for 252 yards in that quarter, also an NFL record. Titans QB Kerry Collins' stats for the game were horrid. 2 of 12 for -7 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 4.9 rating. Those -7 yards do not include sack yardage. Vince Young was put in later in the game and he went 0-2 with 1 interception. Combined, the 2 quarterbacks threw as many completions to Patriots as Titans. The Patriots had 619 yards of total offense, the 23rd most in NFL history, and there's been over 17,000 games. The final quarter was scoreless. The Patriots had an opportunity to run up the score and make it the worst blowout in NFL history, but they didn't. In fact, they took out Tom Brady just halfway through the third quarter. The Patriots threw for 426 yards and the Titans threw for -7. That is the largest differential in the Super Bowl era. The -7 yards by the Titans is the fewest amount of passing yards ever gained by any team in the history of the league, and there's been over 17,000 games. The Falcons' starting QB was a guy named Kim McQuilkin, whose career stats look like this: 4 touchdowns to 29 interceptions. In this game, the Falcons were held to just 15 yards in the first half and ended with just 81 total yards. The Rams missed 3 extra points in a row. With these extra points, the final score would have been worse. Alright, we've made it to number 1 on the list. This game, I believe, deserves a video all to itself.